So hello and welcome to the 26th episode of the Boar Hat Tavern Podcast, a podcast all about Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross. Today, we've got a pretty cool show for you. We're going to be talking about Margaret, or Ludociel, or Mardo. I don't even know what you call her, but we're going to be talking about him/her today because she's the new hotness that just dropped on Global a couple days ago. We're also going to be talking about some future units that are coming out on JP because we have that foresight. Cusack, Diane, a new Diane just got announced today on JP, as well as Brynhildr. I'm probably pronouncing that horribly wrong, but we're going to be talking about her as well. So I'm your host, Daz, and I'm joined today, I was going to say as always, by Sandyy and Novage, but Novage isn't actually here today. It's just me and Sandyy. This is the first time we've had to do a show, just the two of us. Do you think we can handle it without the anchor of Novage here?
I don't know. I felt like the last episode, it was just you and I, right? So
that's true. For the audio listeners or even the video viewers, last week, you might not have noticed because the magic of editing, you can kind of like remove people. We had some serious technical issues trying to keep Novage on the call. So if you're wondering why he didn't talk as much as usual, it's probably because he wasn't there for half of it. So, I mean, that happens. Sometimes these things happen, but this time it's actually just, he just couldn't make it. So it's just me and Sandyy. And everyone hopefully will enjoy the show just the same. But Sandyy, you were on vacation last week, right? That's one of the reasons we didn't have the show. How did your vacation go?
really, really good. But I found out, for those of you, I am very, very seasick. So love the ocean personally. And I was able to go on a yacht to do like whale watching and dolphin watching, including parasailing. And I would have to say that's the most expensive trip where I spent the most of my time in the bathroom, just barfing my stomach out. But the cool part is that their bathroom, I mean, it's a very small bathroom because it's on a yacht, right, Daz? And there's a window. So you can't get on your knees to like throw up. So I'm standing and I'm just holding the wall. And all of a sudden I look out the window and I see dolphins and I'm like, oh my God. So that's where I watched it most of the time.
If you're going to throw up, at least have a great view while doing it, eh? That's crazy. I'm glad you could find the silver lining in the situation. Yeah, my wife has the exact same issue too. She gets very, very seasick very quickly. So yeah, no, it's never been a problem for me. I enjoy being on boats, but yeah, it's not a simple thing to get over. But the rest of your vacation okay, other than your trip on the seven seas?
Yeah, other than that, it was great. You know, I'm a big foodie, so I got to go to a lot of places. That's on my bucket list. So when I travel, it's always for food.
Good to know. Maybe that's what I've been doing wrong. I should start centering my vacations around different food spots. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about Margaret. And let's get into it because Margaret is a pretty big character that a lot of people have been waiting for ever since she received her buffs. Like on JP, she came out, she was like an okay unit. And then all of a sudden, the devs said, you know what? Let's give her a little bit of a buff. They buffed one of her main cards and turned her from a good balance unit to a potentially broken unit. So we're going to chat about her a little bit, as I'm sure a lot of people are summoning on this banner today, because not only is Margaret on the banner, but there's actually a lot of good secondary characters, especially Guild Wars, like ungeared or geared Guild Wars type characters that are actually good for that format too. So there's some good secondary value on the banner, including Festival's Elders, Cusack, and Assault Meliodas. So anyways, I've been summoning as much as I could. I ran out of gems very quickly for it, but let's talk about Margaret and what she does, and then we'll give her our analysis and get Sandy's 2 cents as well. So she's an archangel, so she's got a passive and a grace. Her passive increases the basic stats of goddess race allies by 8% every time an ally uses a stance or a buff skill. Man, these things are getting wordy. You gotta like read walls of text anytime you want to go over a character. This limits up to 5 times and applies, so it's only active when you're in battle. It doesn't work on the back line. So you can get up to 40% permanent stats boost if you use enough buff and stance skills for all your goddess race allies. Her grace, or his grace, increases the hero's attack by 5% for each stance or buff on the enemy when using a skill. So if you're attacking into people with buffs or stances, you get a big boost to attack, and there's no cap on that. Skill 1 is Holy Blade, inflicts charge damage equal to 130 to 325% of attack on all enemies. Charge ignores defense. Skill 2 is Breath of Bless, and this is the broken part of it. It removes debuffs from all allies, so you get Cleanse. It increases the damage dealt to enemies by 30 to 50%, depending on the rarity. Decreases damage taken from enemies by 20 to 40%, again, depending on the rarity, for 2 turns. If you do it with a gold card, it goes up to 3 turns, and you also get 20% basic stats for everyone, because why not? And then finally, her ultimate, it's a Sever ultimate, 3 times crit chance increase, equal to 630 to 945% of attack on one enemy, very similar to Sariel's. But if you get her to 6/6, it becomes a lot stronger than Sariel's, because everyone else, this isn't just the person you're attacking to, everyone else on the opponent's team, you block skill effects and give them an ultimate move damage decrease for 2 turns. So it's pretty crazy. I don't think you necessarily have to get her 6/6 or anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. She seems pretty broken to me. What do you think, Sandy?
I think for one, yeah, definitely an amazing character, like you said. And I know you pulled for her. I haven't yet, but yeah, that broken buff card, that's what's so scary. It's like she not only can she do like decent damage, and then you have her passive, which has, a lot of characters which are of goddess race that you can kind of pair her up with. And she seems very, very unkillable to me if you pair her up correctly, especially for PvP. And like you said, Guild Wars, ungeared or geared. I guess she's a must summon. So I gotta start spending my gems now.
Yeah, she's a great unit, and one of the nice things about Angels with Graces, the Archangels, is having that grace gives you a bit of a future proofness, I guess, in a character. Because, like, let's be honest, like a year from now, you probably won't be using Margaret. There's gonna be like stronger characters down the road that will supplant her, but the fact that she has a grace always helps because you're instantly better than your average associate. Just being able to give that extra attack damage when you're attacking in buffed units, like there's always going to be buff units in this game. So being able to boost whoever your grace is attached to, boost their attack, that's a huge thing. So the only problem is if you're using someone as an associate, generally you want to have them 6/6, which is a bit of a tall order for these festival units, but maybe like 2 or 3 festivals down the road, you'll get some luck and hopefully get her up to 6/6, and then you'll be good for, the foreseeable future. It's kind of like the Sariels and Ludociels. Like I didn't have Ludociel for the longest time, but now because he's been on so many banners, I've got him 6/6 and I use him as an associate whenever I can because of it.
Yeah, and I mean it doesn't hurt that she gets to be 6/6 because that ultimate move seems very annoying.
Yeah, incredibly annoying. Like as if deleting one character isn't enough, let's just totally disable everybody else. And unless you're fighting another Margaret, like there's not a lot of cleanse options. And you know what? To be perfectly honest, I don't even know if her cleanse would work on that because it's probably blue text. I don't know. I guess that's one interaction I'd have to look into. But still, either way, it's a very, very strong ultimate.
Oh my gosh. What gear do you think is going to work on her? I mean, I haven't pulled her. I definitely want to, but
yeah, well, a lot of people already have HP defense on their existing Ludos. One of the nice things about this Margaret / Ludo is she's a Ludociel character. So Ludociel UR gear will work on her. So, just throwing her HP defense set isn't necessarily a bad idea. But if you really want to get the most out of her as a damage dealer especially, I think attack crit is the way to go. Or even attack defense if you want to boost up with the CC a little bit, because defense sets give you more than crit damage sets. But yeah, like she's one of those characters that you can flex either way. If you were going to go the HP defense set, I'd probably pair her up with another strong DPS unit if you're putting her into a PvP type situation, because she will do significantly more damage if you do have her on an attack set versus an HP set. But really, I think you can go either way. She's a fun unit. So I just, if you're not convinced if you want to build an extra set for Ludociel or not, just use whatever set you might have lying around and see how it works and see what fits best for you. So yeah, I don't know, she's pretty strong, but I think people are worried that she'd come in and she'd just dominate, kind of like Bond did, but I think there's some viable counterplay to Margaret. Have you heard about any of these or seen anything like this, Sandy?
I lost you for a second.
I figured as much when I saw your video cut out. What I was saying is there any strong counterplay, do you think, to Margaret? Like if you wanted to, like, because we're starting to see a little bit more Margarets out there, a little less Bonds. So now you got to start thinking about, well, I got to pick teams that are good against Margaret. If I don't even have Margaret, like what's the best thing I can use against her, do you think?
Yeah, true. I mean, I haven't fought a Margaret yet, but the normal team comps, which we were talking about earlier, right? It's like you pair her up with any type of goddess, whether that be like Goddess Liz, Tarmiel, Sariel, but I think she's broken, but she's beautiful if you've got that unknown team. That's the unknown team with the baby Merlin. Baby Merlin does tanky damage against Margaret or Ludo, only because for one, the color advantage, right? So green against blue. And also like Amelia, you're able to freeze Margaret and then just take away those buffs.
Yeah, I mean, I still run the unknown team. That's the team I've been running pretty much since ReZero's come out, and I've run into some Margarets, and it's really nice because one of Margaret's kind of winning strategies, especially if she's paired up with a Gother, is trying to get to her gold buff. She'll throw up a gold buff. Essentially, you can't do any damage to them because not only do they have like whatever it is, 40-50% damage mitigation, they also have 20% extra stats for 3 turns. But the nice thing about having Amelia with the freeze card, you can just freeze her and then she loses all her buffs, right? So you have a few freezes on hand, you freeze everybody after they throw out that gold buff and you're laughing. It's not like the good old Arthur mono red buff days where they'd have debuff immunity too. Oh my gosh, if they gave her debuff immunity, she'd be broken on gold. But she doesn't, so you can just sit there, you can freeze them, and you can just laugh as Margaret's trying to do damage to you because that's kind of like their whole strategy. They might take a few turns to even build up to that. You can totally negate that strategy, hit him with a Merlin. Like one Power Strike card is pretty close to enough to kill her. So if you have a couple Power Strike cards in hand, especially early on before she can build up her extra stats from her passive, it's actually a pretty favorable matchup for the unknown team. And the unknown team actually, too, one thing, I mean, I've talked about in previous episodes, it does well against Bond teams, especially Bond teams that run T1 because of Amelia's freeze. I think Amelia is still one of the best units in the game just because of her CC abilities. Like you freeze someone, they can't be shielded, they can't get any regen, they can't act, right? It's just such a strong card to be able to play. So I don't, if you're sitting there with 400 gems, you're like, oh, should I summon a Margaret? Like maybe you're free to play, you don't think you can get to the 900 in time. She's not necessarily a must summon. A lot of these new characters, and this is something that I like to tell people, is that you don't have to, like, even if we say she's a must summon, it doesn't mean you have to summon on her. There's enough character diversity in this game that you can run a team that you've been running for a while and you can still find success with it. I think you just need to pick and choose your battles. Like maybe this is your battle that you want to pick and you want to start running Margaret and it's maybe on an Angel team or with Gother and who knows who else. And that's fine too. You just invest in those characters, you stick with them, and they'll probably be good for a while. And Margaret's probably going to be good for a while because she is such a strong unit. So what teams have you seen, or I guess you have said you haven't run into any, but do you think, or do you know that people have been running in PvP, Sandy?
Yeah, well, I mean, guild chat, right? A lot of people are, of course, using that passive and that grace. So they're running her with the blue droll, right? For his resistance buffs. Green Gother, again, like you said, they're trying to set up for that gold rank 3 and then basic, which I think for like CC, or if you kill one of the characters, he just pops out and is like, hey, it's me. I'm gonna get like a gold flood merge and I'm just gonna go in. Who knows? But I think that's some of the great teams out there that's running with her. But also, like, if you do like Tarmiel, like his kind of damage mitigation, and then you have her, I just think that's a really, really annoying team. So yeah, it is a must summon for me.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it is a must summon banner for a lot of people. The team that I've been probably seeing the most so far, at least in geared PvP, is the Blue Droll Green Gother team with Margaret and the one in the back, probably for the extra CC, just, or like you said, just to come in and like surprise everybody after one of the characters dies. But that Blue Droll is actually very strong with Margaret because it's so hard when you're relying on buffs on the other team to get bonus damage. And that's what Margaret's passive is, right? Or sorry, her grace. She gets more attack based on the number of buffs. So if you can apply those buffs on the other team, and I think the only way to do that is with the droll. It's just such a powerful combination. It really increases the damage output of the Margaret. And then the Green Gother's there just to try and get to that gold buff. You get the gold buff, you get some resistance stacks in the enemy team with your droll. It's game over. The only problem is that you don't have any built-in Goddess Liz death protection or anything too. So if you don't go first and you're facing a Merlin team, good night. You're probably going to have a dead Margaret before you even get a chance to go. And that just kind of ruins your whole strategy. But that being said, even if she dies, you got Droll, Gother, and the one. So it's not like the end of the world. And I think that's one of the reasons people do put T1 in the back, is that you have that extra damage dealer if things go awry. So that's pretty much all I have to say on Margaret. But is there anything else you want to add there, Sandy, before we move on?
No. So I went into PvP and I thought we were still on the event with 4-on-4 because then you could have, because I pulled the Liz Hawk typically built for Margaret, and I thought it was 4-on-4, and it was a team to play with just to make her super tanky again with the Tarmio, the Liz Hawk, Margaret, and knows another DPS or a Goddess Liz or a Sario Merlin.
That's actually a good point. Maybe something we should bring up quickly too. If you happen to summon, and I know a lot of people didn't, on the Summer Vibes Liz Hawk, she pairs really well in a 4v4 format. And now that everyone has access to ungeared Guild Wars, I think Margaret and the Summer Vibes Liz Hawk, pair them with a Tarmiel and maybe another angel like a Sariel, you've got a really, really strong ungeared team. The Liz Hawk, she doesn't do a lot of damage, but she deranks cards, she decreases attack-related stats, and her passive just makes it so that for every goddess character you have on the field and an unknown character you have on the field, you get extra damage mitigation. So it is an extremely tanky team, really hard to crack, especially with Tarmiel doing his thing, Sariel giving everyone extra 20% stats. It's just busted. Then not to mention Margaret's buffing everybody up to give extra damage mitigation. So I think that's probably a really strong team or a group of characters to use together in ungeared Guild Wars. But Margaret, she's going to find a really solid spot in geared and ungeared as well as geared Guild Wars too. And I'm so glad that we can finally talk about Guild Wars a little bit more often now without excluding, 99% of the people who are listening to us, because now everyone theoretically does have access to ungeared Guild Wars, which was a lot of fun, by the way. Okay, let's look forward a little bit, because we now have an idea of who the next 3 characters are going to be. Just today, actually, on JP, they had a live stream which showcased 2 new units, a new named Diane, a green Diane, and Brynhildr. Again, hopefully I'm not butchering that pronunciation. There's probably going to be a lot of that with all these Ragnarok characters coming from kind of Norse mythology. They're always a little bit harder to pronounce. But yeah, first we've got Cusack. He's the next festival banner. And I remember a couple weeks ago when everyone was like, oh, we're going to have 2 festivals back to back. And there was, it was like the sky was falling because everyone was worried they'd have another OP unit. But luckily, Netmarble said, no, we're going to give you a random unit that's an easy skip. And that made life so much easier for everybody, because they didn't have to really worry about doing 2 back-to-back 900 gem banners, and made a lot of people's decision to summon a Margaret a lot easier. Because, spoiler alert, Cusack, he's fairly skippable. I'll just kind of go over what he does a little bit, and then me and Sandy will talk about him a bit. So Cusack, he's a blue unit. His passive is what kind of makes him interesting. He inflicts anyone inflicts additional damage equal to 40% of the enemy's increased HP. Now, I'm going to get back to that in a second, because increased HP is kind of a weird concept. If a critical hit does not occur when a demon race ally uses a single target attack skill. So he's commonly paired with Festival Zeldris, because both Cusack and Festival Zeldris share the same card. It's a cleave card, which means it cannot crit. It does extra damage based on your crit damage, but it cannot crit. So if you have a demon that does not crit, you can do bonus damage according to Cusack's passive. Now let's get back to that percent of enemies increased HP bit, because the bonus damage that you do is based on how much more HP the character that you're attacking has compared to their usual baseline. So if you've got like Twiggo, he gives passive 30% extra HP to everybody who's red on the team. So anyone who's red has 30% increased HP. So then you do an extra damage on whatever character has that bonus of 40% of that amount. So Cusack works really well against your Twiggos, your Bonds, who has massive passive HP increases based on his passive. Characters like that. The only problem is this passive does absolutely nothing if the character that you're attacking doesn't have any bonus HP. So this Cusack was made to be a Bond counter. One of the things about this too is it's funny timing, because now that Margaret's here, Bond is expected to kind of slide out of the meta a little bit. So then do you really need to summon on this niche counter unit for Cusack, Sandy? I don't know. Is this kind of weird timing you? What do you think their play is here?
I don't know what they're doing. Like, this would have been nice during the Bond meta, right? But I kind of feel like if you didn't invest in the unknown team to kind of counter, the Bonds or the Margarets that are currently in play right now in PvP, if anybody uses that 6 stats, or is that only attack for goddess? Right? Wrong? Sorry.
Well, you went robot there for a bit, so it was kind of hard to tell what you're talking about, but yeah, so I think the gist of what Sandy was saying is that it's unfortunate timing. If he was here a little bit earlier, it probably would have been a bit better. But now that he's here now, there's not really a good team you can slide him into. When you're looking at PvP too, we always talk about the fact that you're looking for characters that can displace other characters. He's a blue unit. Would you take out the one and put Cusack in there? Probably not. Are you putting Festival Zeldris in? Probably not. I mean, both him and Festival Zeldris do get a buff to their cleave card when Cusack comes out. So I guess they can do quite a bit of damage, but still, it's not really enough to make them a strong character, a strong option. And then you look at, yes, maybe in certain situations he can do more damage against the Margarets of the world, especially with their passive buff. But really, you're probably better off just running Margaret or an unknown team or pretty much anything instead of Cusack. So that's one of these problems that you run into with these like counter units, and we're going to be talking about another counter unit in a second, is they're really only good in PvP when 90 or 95% of the teams you're facing are the same team. Because if they're niche and not generally good, it's like rock, paper, scissors, right? And unless you know everyone's throwing rock most of the time, you're going to lose more often than not. And then there's nothing that feels worse about having like a really unbalanced matchup. And you don't want to take your Cusacks into like an unknown team because you won't do anything effective, right? And they're just going to clap you. So it's just not generally a good strategy, at least in my mind. Again, unless you know that the meta has it so that almost all the teams are the same thing. It's just better to have a generally good team. Your T1 glue, your Margaret teams, your Bond teams, your unknown teams, and Cusack just doesn't fit into any of those. That being said, he could potentially get good with the addition of a new unit down the road at some point.
Yeah, you're kind of limited that, you have to use him with demon races, and he was made for Festival Zeldris, so there's not a lot of comps to kind of fit him in to any meta.
Yeah, I guess maybe Festival Zeldris is like the new Assault Meliodas to be like, okay, we just need one more demon to make him good. Just need one more demon to make this Cusack Festival Zeldris team a good one. But hey, we don't have that demon yet. So I think this one, in my mind, is an easy skip, especially considering it's 900 gems. And the banner itself, I mean, Green Gother's on the banner. So if you're looking for a Green Gother, maybe it's the one you want to summon on. But still, if you're going to spend gems, spend it on Margaret. Or maybe save them for the next OP unit down the road. So speaking of units down the road, let's continue on with Diane and Brynhildr. So Cusack we're probably getting in 2 weeks. Diane and Brynhildr we're getting in about 4 weeks if they stick to the typical schedule. Diane gets a new green unit, which is pretty cool. Everyone likes Diane. We're still waiting for that Diane Festival unit. This isn't her though. So she's also a niche counter unit, and she is built to counter Margaret and potentially some other units like Assault Meliodas as well, but she's built to counter Margaret, because she's a green unit. She has type advantage, but also her passive is pretty crazy. During PvP, she will remove, and just so everyone knows too, like we're going off of translations here, so there might be some like lost in translation stuff. We haven't actually seen her on JP yet. At the time of this recording, she hasn't been released on JP, so we don't know the ins and outs of it. But during PvP, she removes 3 buffs and debuffs from an enemy target and increases damage dealt by 40% per buff and debuff. So if she attacks a target, she will strip buffs and debuffs up to 3. And in doing so, she'll also give herself additional damage increase of 40% per buff. So if she just strips 3 buffs, she's getting a 120% increase of damage, which is significant. So that's pretty huge, and that's kind of her thing. She's got 2 single target attack cards. One seals attacks on silver. The other one fills ultimate gauge on silver. But it seems like they're kind of positioning her as a DPS unit and one that will likely shred Margaret's. Sandy, what do you think about Diane? She kind of cool. Again, these niche units, they always kind of make me wonder if they're worth it.
I think she's kind of cool. And I think that she's made thing down the line, like maybe another festival unit. But I mean, that's crazy. The 120%, because you automatically remove 3 debuffs or buffs on anyone who's using Margaret or Assault Meliodas. But, you know, I'm kind of sad they didn't give her an AoE. I really wanted her to be like just OP. But she is a DPS. Oh, man.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to our conversation about like Margaret and playing her with Droll, like she might actually work really well with a Droll type setup too, because one of the weaknesses of a character like this, that like, let's be honest, she's likely going to hit like a wet noodle unless she is attacking into someone with buffs. So relying on the other team to have buffs up isn't easy, because the only unit that we currently know of, and there's probably ones we're forgetting about, is Droll, right? You can put buffs on the enemy team using a Droll's commandment, and then you can strip them off. So that'd be kind of a cool combo, but it does take a lot of setup. And I feel like Diane, because she's such a niche unit, if you're going into a team that doesn't rely on buffs or doesn't have many buffs, she's probably going to be like a bit of a dead unit. It's kind of like if you're Assault Meliodas, you're attacking with no self buffs, he's probably not doing a lot of damage, right? So you got to hold those Diane cards until the other team has buffs up. And if they don't end up doing any buffs, the counterplay is fairly easy to counter Diane. So my suspicion is that she'll probably roll into a team with Droll. Maybe we'll end up having like a Giants team down the road. Maybe there's gonna be another character that buffs all Giants in PvP, right? So maybe there'll be something to this down the road, but I really see it being that niche counter Margaret team, and that it puts the same kind of taste in my mouth as Cusack does. Like, do you really want to have her on a team unless you know you're only facing Margarets? Probably doesn't make too much sense. So there's some other ideas too, because she doesn't only remove buffs, but she can also remove debuffs too. So one potential idea, you could run Diane with a debuffing unit. And because if she strips debuffs, yeah, it's not great to strip debuffs, but if you give that bonus attack to Diane, it could help out a lot. So the first unit that always comes to mind when you're looking to debuff other teams is Kyo. So you can put those like night stacks, you hit in, and then, hey, you're going to get those buffs on your Diane as well and hit a little bit harder. So maybe that's a team comp that will show up as well in the future.
She would be a good summon for Guild Wars, right? Like for both geared and ungeared, not only just PvP. Because like I said, you said, right, PvP is more niche, but now that everybody has access to Guild Wars, that'd be fun.
Yeah, that's very true. And if someone's focus is, like most people's focus are just PvP, but because we do have ungeared Guild Wars now that everyone has access to, like Sandy's mentioning, this could be a really good niche counter unit. Like you're going to see a lot of Margarets. You're going to see a lot of Assault Meliodases on ungeared defense. Now, Diane, as a counter unit to those teams, there's a lot of counterplay there. So having Diane to be able to attack into those teams is definitely a very powerful tool. So she is one of those situations where, like, yeah, maybe you just want someone to get one copy of her so you can contribute to your guild to help out with ungeared Guild Wars. But in terms of PvP, Don't think you're going to see her much there, but who knows? I could be wrong. But Sandyy brings up an excellent point. Ungeared Guild Wars is now a focus for many people, so hopefully we'll be seeing her shine in that format. So we do have one more unit we want to talk about, and that's Brynhildr. She is a green unit. And I was so excited for Brynhildr. Like, I remember seeing the Ragnarok teaser video when they first were introducing it, and you saw Brynhildr, I guess now we know her name, fighting against Escanor, and Escanor at the end gives her like little like, yeah, you did pretty good there, Brynhildr. Like, and you're like, whoa, if she can go toe to toe with Escanor, you know she's gonna be a good unit. I thought for sure they're gonna release her as like some like crazy strong OP unit, but did it ever fall flat? I am a little disappointed with her. And when I started reading the translations, I was getting excited. I was like, oh, this is it. But then you get to the end of the description of her passive, and it's just a big letdown. So here, I'm gonna build everyone up just to let them down at the end. So her passive increases heroes' basic stats by 12% for every surviving ally. So yeah, in 4v4, that's 48% basic stats increase just for showing up. And she also increases by 8% for every dead ally. So even if they all die, you're still getting quite a bit bonus stats there. But, and this is the biggest caveat ever, this excludes PvP and deathmatch, which PvP is also Guild Wars. Geared or ungeared is considered PvP. So she is PvE exclusive and not even deathmatch appropriate. Oh my gosh. Why? Exactly, Sandy. That's the only word that I can think of. It's the only word that we both think of to describe the situation. Why would you do this, Netmarble? Oh my gosh. Like, such a great, cool design, cool looking unit. And then you just go and do this. Like, there's no need for her. PvE, okay, maybe she'll be good. She's going to be good, I guarantee, on like a final boss at some point. Brynhildr will be there if you want to get top 100 for some crazy final boss strat, because she's good in final boss because it's not deathmatch and not PvP, right? But in general, you're not going to need her to clear content. There are so many good units out there that shine in PvP that she's just not necessary. So I almost wish, like, this screams to me like they should give her away for free. This shouldn't be a summonable character. Oh, okay, I shouldn't say that. She should be summonable, but they should give you just one copy of her just so you can feel happy about having her in your box. But oh my gosh.
That makes no sense.
You know why I hate it more? Like, I kind of want her, and I don't know why. I think it's because of her character design. I'm just like, she's such a good, like, awesome looking, like, design character. You really want to have her. Maybe that's their play. Maybe they're like, well, people like Daz are gonna summon on this banner anyways because Brynhildr looks cool. But
yeah, you never, PvE player versus Escanor apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Because whatever Escanor and her were doing wasn't PvP, because we know she's shit in that situation. Oh my gosh, I think I just swore for the first time on the podcast. It was a well-deserved curse word in this situation. Oh
yeah, we definitely need her for free then, Netmarble, please. Oh my God. Yeah, she looks like such a cool DPS character. Her power strike card and a detonate single target card. She could be so good. She is good, but just in PvE, like, what the heck?
She would be a broken unit. If they just removed that excludes PvP and deathmatch, like, her kit's great too. Like, she's looks to have the making of a hard hitting single target character, kind of like your T, like a green version of a T1 almost, right? She's even got very high crit chance too. Oh my, what a lost opportunity. I mean, I guess it's nice because now I can just save my gems for like the next thing. But really, I think she is probably one of the biggest disappointments I've come across in the game so far.
Definitely.
Okay. Let's continue into the featured comment, Sandy. What do we have for the featured comment this week?
All right. Hopefully I don't become robotic, but wherever you guys leave the comments for us on YouTube, Discord, any podcast station, we will find you. This one is from DJ KZ. And the DJ KZ said, "Good job, international okay sign emoji." I listen every day in bed before falling asleep. International flex, 2 forearms.
I'd like to. I'd like to think that the two forearms is just him giving us a gun show or her giving us a gun show. Yeah, right there.
Wait, but Daz, is that a compliment or are we like boring? Maybe it's your radio voice. What?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, listening to us before falling asleep. I guess it could be. It depends on how you look at it, right? Like maybe our soothing voices just put people to sleep, right? But I guess on the other hand, maybe DJ Casey's just looking for some good dreams, and hopefully we are providing DJ Casey with said good dreams. So, but you know what? Either way, thank you. We'll take it as a compliment because we get to control the narrative since we're the ones with the microphones. So thank you, DJ Casey, for those kind words. Okay, well, I think this is where we're going to end off the show. Sorry, everyone, for Sandy having a little bit of like technical robotic voice here and there, but I think we got the gist of it. And she did, come in clear as a whistle for most of the time. But thanks, everyone, for powering through it. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today at the Boar Hat Tavern, the 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross podcast. We stream this show live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Boar Hat Tavern, every week on Tuesday nights at 1:30. Oh, I don't know why I leave that in the show notes. We definitely don't stream every week on Tuesday nights at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. We just kind of stream whenever we can at this point. It's usually twice a week, or not twice a week, once every other week. We try and do it when the at least characters are released. We were trying to get back to regular schedule, but unfortunately busy lives have been preventing us from being able to do that. As you can tell, Novage is even here this week. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us anytime at podcast@boarhattavern.com or follow us on Instagram or Twitter at Boar Hat Tavern. All three of us, me, Sandyy, and Novage, are members of the Global Guild Denied, part of the Scoundrels Alliance. If you'd like to join our ranks, pop over on our Discord server. The link for that is in the description wherever you're watching or listening to this. Okay, you can subscribe to their podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you happen to find your podcasts online. You can also find our shows over at boarhattavern.com. We'd like to thank Madeline Marois for crafting our killer logo, Streetwise Rhapsody from YouTube for composing our awesome cover of the Grand Cross theme song that we used for our intro, and Andre Bobe from ArtStation for letting us use his outstanding 3D renders of the Boar Hat Tavern for our pre-live and post-video splash screens. You can find all of their work in the websites in the description. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week.